"Can we get a dozer to move cars on Pearson Road?" That was the call. 8:30 in the morning, November 8th, 2018, and the town of Paradise, California was already gone. 26,000 people trying to get out on roads that no longer existed. And somewhere in that smoke, a fire engine sat trapped, cars burning all around it, no way forward and no way back. The man who answered that call wasn't in a fire truck. He was in an 18-ton Caterpillar D5H, and to reach those people, he was about to drive it straight through the backyards of a burning town because the streets were already too far gone to use. His name was Joe Kennedy, and by the time the sun went down, he'd still be out there. Let's back up to where he started that morning, because nobody planned for this. Kennedy got the dispatch at 7:16 a.m. He is a heavy fire equipment operator for CAL FIRE, out of the Nevada Yuba Placer unit, and his job that morning was simple on paper. Haul the dozer up the ridge on a flatbed, unload it, cut a fire line, standard wildfire work. He had done it 100 times, but Paradise sits on a ridge with only a few roads off of it, and by the time Kennedy got close, all of them were jammed. 26,000 people do not evacuate a mountain town quickly. They sit in traffic. And the fire was moving faster than the traffic. Here is the number that tells you everything. At its peak that morning, the fire was eating ground at the rate of 1 football field every single second. The director of CAL FIRE said it on camera afterward, almost like he did not believe it himself. A football field a second. An acre a second. You cannot outrun that in a car stuck bumper to bumper. So when Kennedy rolled up to unload his dozer, there was no fire line to cut. The town was already inside the fire, and then the radio went off. A fire engine, engine 2390, was boxed in on Pearson Road. Cars on fire in front of it. Cars on fire behind it. The captain was asking for air support, but the smoke was so thick nothing could fly. So the call changed. Get a dozer down there. Kennedy was a couple of miles out. The roads between him and that engine were solid metal. Abandoned cars. People. He couldn't drive the streets. So he put the blade down and went through the yards. Fences, hedges, whatever was between him and Pearson Road. He drove over it. Now think about what an 18-ton bulldozer actually is for a second, because this is the whole reason any of this was even possible. A regular truck on that road was a death trap. Rubber tires catch fire. The fuel tank cooks. The plastic melts, and the thing just stops. And now, you're a person sitting inside a metal box in 1800 degrees of heat. That's not a guess. The campfire burned hot enough to melt the aluminum in car engines. Investigators found it pooled on driveways afterward. But a dozer doesn't have tires. It runs on 2 wide steel tracks, no rubber to burn, weight spread out so it sits low and heavy and stable. It runs on diesel, which doesn't flash the way gasoline does. And it has a blade on the front that can shove 2 tons of burning car off the road, like it's clearing snow. The machine that everyone else thinks of as slow and clumsy was the only thing in town that could go where the people were dying. That's the part most people never understand about this story. The hero isn't a fire truck. It's the machine they usually leave parked. If you want to see how Kennedy got that fire engine and the people around it out, stick with us, because what happened on Pearson Road is the part that ended up on national television. And if you appreciate stories where we actually check the facts instead of repeating the legend, hit like and subscribe. It tells us to keep digging. So Kennedy comes through the back of a subdivision and drops onto Pearson Road. And the first problem hits him immediately. He can't see. Visibility was down to about 10 yards. Black smoke, no daylight. the middle of the morning, looking like midnight. Out of that smoke, a man steps in front of his blade, waving a flashlight. It's a Butte County Sheriff's deputy named Aaron Parmley. Parmley's patrol car had already died in the heat. He'd been walking the road on foot, looking for 4 nurses from the hospital who'd run into the smoke. He thought he was going to die out there. He'd actually turned his body camera on to record what he figured were his last minutes. And that camera is rolling when Kennedy's dozer comes grinding out of the dark. So now Kennedy has a problem. People want to climb onto the dozer, but there's no room. It's a 1-seat cab. He can't carry anyone, so he does the only thing that works. He points them back to the fire engine behind him, and he becomes the thing that clears the road so that engine can move. He's not the ambulance. He's the plow that makes a path for the ambulance. And then he starts pushing cars. This is where it gets bad. Every time he shoves a burning car off the road and backs the dozer up, he looks down at where the car had been sitting, and the asphalt itself is on fire. His words, not ours. A flaming rectangle of asphalt, right there in the road, in the shape of the car that had been parked on it. The road was burning, not melting in some figure of speech, actually on fire under his tracks. He kept going anyway. He told a reporter later, and we're quoting him directly here, "I was basically on fire." That's the operator describing his own morning. And here's a detail you can't make up. When he climbed into that cab and the engine turned over, his phone connected to the dozer's stereo over Bluetooth, the way it always did, and it started playing music. So Joe Kennedy drove into the deadliest fire in California history with Pantera coming through the speakers. He didn't pick it. The machine just did what it always did. There's something about that sticks with you. The most ordinary thing in the world, your phone connecting to the radio, happening inside the worst morning of his life. He cleared Pearson Road. The engine got out. The people around it got out. We checked this whole sequence against the deputy's body camera footage, the CAL FIRE reports, and Kennedy's own interviews, and it holds up. That matters to us, because there's a lot floating around online about this story that doesn't. We'll get to that. Now here's the part that almost nobody puts together, and it's the reason we wanted to make this video at all. For years, 3 separate survival stories came out of that morning, and they got told one at a time, like they had nothing to do with each other. There was a nurse named Nicole Jolly. She had helped get 67 patients out of the hospital in about 20 minutes. Then her own car got knocked into a ravine, and she ended up running through fire on foot, her pants burning, until a fire crew pulled her in. There was an ICU nurse named Alan Pierce, trapped in his Toyota pickup, flames all around it, recording what he thought was a goodbye message to his family. He said a bulldozer came out of nowhere and shoved a burning truck away from his, and that gap is how he lived. He turned around and drove back to the hospital to keep treating patients, and there was engine 2390, the crew that started this whole thing with their radio call. 3 stories, 3 different people, told separately for years, and almost nobody noticed the one thing they share. The same dozer cleared the road for all of them. One machine, one operator, a town of 26,000 coming apart, and a single 18-ton Caterpillar threading through the middle of it, making paths. Kennedy didn't clock out after the engine got free either. He kept working that ridge for the better part of the next 24 hours. So we went looking for what that machine actually was, because the internet had already decided. Half the articles you will find say Kennedy drove a Caterpillar D6N. That is wrong, and it is a specific kind of wrong worth explaining. CAL FIRE did give Kennedy a brand new D6N dozer, but that was in March of 2019, 4 months after the fire. People saw the famous operator with the shiny new machine and assumed that was the one from that morning. It was not. The machine he actually drove into paradise was a Caterpillar D5H. We know because the one reporter who sat down with Kennedy and got the full story for the New York Times Magazine named it. And the weight checks out. An 18-ton high-track dozer, not the 21-ton replacement. It is a small thing, but if we are going to tell you this story, we are going to tell you the right machine. And while we are checking things, you will see it said all over that the heat shattered the windows of his cab and blinded him with glass. We could not find a single first-hand source for that. Not the deputy's footage, not Kennedy's own interviews, where he described everything else in vivid detail. It traces back to one law firm's blog, and nothing underneath it. The window shattering did happen to Cal fire dozers, 3 of them. But that was a different fire, the car fire, a few months earlier. Not this one. So we are leaving it out, because we do not actually know it happened. What we do know is enough. California gave Joe Kennedy the Gold Medal of Valor, the highest honor the state gives an employee. He drove a machine most people would call slow and clumsy into the deadliest fire in the state's history, on a road that was literally burning under him, with heavy metal playing through the speakers, and he made paths for other people to live. We always picture the hero of a wildfire as the firefighter on the hose, or the pilot dropping retardant. But on that morning in paradise, the person who saved the most lives on Pearson Road was an equipment operator in a bulldozer. Does the machine make the hero, or does the operator make the machine? Tell us below, and thanks for riding along.